Hello, welcome to this month's AARP New Jersey Fraud Facebook Live. I'm Christine Braccino, an AARP New Jersey volunteer and your moderator. Today, we are joined by Karin Price Mueller, who is a columnist for the Star Ledger and NJ.com. Karin covers consumer affairs, including trending scams. She is also the founder of njmoneyhelp.com, a personal finance website that offers objective advice on everything money. We want this to be an interactive discussion today, so if you have a question on fraud and scams, please type it into the comment section and we will do our best to get to it live. Hi, Karin. Thank you again for joining us. How are you?
My pleasure. How are you?
Good. You've been writing about a new scam that has jumped in the number of cases from 2021 to 2022 by 167%. Not only have you been writing about this type of scam, but you have a personal experience about how criminals changed your mailing address. What were they doing?
So yes, the scam even happened to me, and I am constantly looking and monitoring my own stuff for scams. I was waiting for a personal letter to come in the mail. Now, I don't usually get much mail. Most of my bills I get online, but I will get occasional pieces of mail. And so years back, I signed up for a free service that the Postal Service offers that will send you a daily email showing you the images of all the mail that you should expect to receive. So I knew that this personal letter was coming. But when I checked my mail that day, nothing was there. So, okay, maybe something got messed up. It'll come the next day, perhaps. And then it said I was supposed to get a gas bill. I checked the mail again and nothing was there. So I went to the post office and said, what's going on? And it turned out that somebody had changed my address to forward my mail to a location in Tennessee, of all places. So I was scammed. Now, why would people want to do this, I guess? If you get all of your mail through the postal system, we're talking bills, investment statements, credit card statements, something from Social Security, perhaps. They can get a ton of your personal information by stealing your mail.
So the informed delivery, just to make sure, so you get an email of the mail that you're going to be delivered that day in the morning?
That's correct. Yeah. So every morning I will receive an email and it will tell me what's supposed to be in my mailbox. And it usually is. Every once in a while, there might be an image that was not scanned properly or it's hard to see. But for the most part, it's perfect. And it's something that I've always said people should do. I did it years back when my oldest child was applying for colleges. And before they did everything over email, it was coming through paper. So that's why I did it. So we'd know if she got some kind of a letter.
And how do you sign up for the informed delivery? Is it online or?
Yeah, you can just go to the United States Postal Service's website. So very simple, or you can just Google informed delivery and it's very easy, but that's very simple. But let's turn to changing your address. How could somebody have changed my address with the postal system? Because I'm thinking, I've stopped my mail before to go on vacation, to have them hold it. So you have two choices. You can go in person and you show identification, or they're supposed to ask you for identification and they'll hold or change your mail, or you can do it online. And if you do it online through their website, you pay a $1.10 fee that's supposed to be used for identity verification. Now, the postal system has told me that through using your credit or debit card, they can somehow check your identity that way when they charge you that $1.10.
Right.
But somebody was still able to change mine.
Wow. Actually, I was just telling Karin before the Facebook Live that my husband had heard that this is something that we should all consider doing. And we actually signed up for informed delivery a couple of weeks ago. So it's a very timely topic for us. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you have questions on mail scams today, please type it in the chat and we will do our best to get to it live. Thankfully, you were using informed delivery, Karin, and you were able to spot the scam early. Once you realized what was happening, what did you do to protect yourself?
I did a whole lot of things. I checked first with all of my existing accounts to double check that I was receiving everything online. I mentioned my gas bill I get by paper. for no reason other than I just never changed it. So I went ahead and made sure that I was receiving everything through email. And I know a lot of people get nervous about handling their money online. I think it's really the future if we're not there already, and I feel comfortable with it. So I made those changes. Then I checked with my financial accounts, my bank accounts, just to make sure that nobody had changed my address with them directly. And fortunately, we seem to be good with that also. So then I reported it to the Postal Inspection Service, which will investigate these kinds of matters. So I thought I was lucky. I also checked my credit reports, by the way, just to make sure that nobody had done anything. But I think I caught it fast enough, or at the time, I thought I caught it fast enough that we were in the clear, but we weren't.
So how did you correct the address with the postal? Did you put a freeze on the any address changes in the future?
Right. So you would think that there would be protections to make it easy to protect your address from fraud. It's not. They offered to freeze my change of address abilities for 6 months. And I was like, okay, that's great. And I said, how can I tell my readers so they can do the same thing? Because why not avoid this problem from happening? And they said, oh, no, you can't do it unless you've already been the victim of fraud. So that I thought was very disappointing. Yeah. So unlike your credit report, right, you can put a freeze on your credit report. You don't have to be a fraud victim first. For this one, though, you had to be a victim first. So that was a bit disappointing. Excuse me.
And your credit cards and debit cards, did you have to alert the banks or put alerts on them?
I called everybody. I already had a freeze on my credit. So nobody should have been able to open any accounts in my name. But just to be safe, I called to make sure that nobody had changed the addresses. And like I said before, I thought I was in the clear. And about 2 days after I reported it to the Postal Service, I started getting mail again. Fantastic. But what appeared? A debit card and a checkbook in my husband's name with a bank that we did business with. So whoever had gotten our information got enough of my husband's information to open up this new account. And fortunately, the scammer, what would have happened, the bank would have thought to deliver it to my house. The Postal Service would have said, oh, change of address. Let's send it off to Tennessee. But the bad guys never got their hands on it because we were able to fix the mail part first. So then I had to call that bank and say, we were the victim of fraud and this account is not ours, and so on.
Yeah, in cases when you catch something early, like you did, a scam, it's all the stuff you have to do to clean up after.
It's a whole lot of work, and we were lucky, right? It was just this one account as far as I've been able to tell. And we were able to get it stopped before the scammer got their hands on this account, because had they written a bunch of checks that bounced, that account would have been in the negative and my husband would have potentially been held responsible. So who wants that?
Yeah, exactly. We do have one question. Let me just read this. Judith Ann, one of our viewers, asked, you received 0 mail on those first 2 days that you expected something via the informed delivery, and 0 mail going forward. What if you could just describe what happened again? Okay.
So what happened was I received the informed delivery notification that I would get that personal letter, but the personal letter was not in the mailbox. I did have 2 pieces of junk mail because there are certain kinds of mail that will never be forwarded. So the junk mail still came, but not the stuff that was addressed directly to me. Then on my informed delivery for the next day, it said I was going to get a gas bill. I did not get that, but I did get junk mail that they don't forward. So, and then after that, I corrected it with the Postal Service. So after 2 days, they started regularly delivering the mail to me, and they stopped what was going to Tennessee.
Got it. One of the things you mentioned was about putting a freeze on your credit, and if they, and anytime you put something like that or do something like that, does it hurt your credit, or what is the process for unfreezing? Because it sounds so dramatic.
Right. It's actually very simple. You would get a PIN when you freeze your credit. And so if you wanted to unfreeze it because you knew you were going to apply for a loan or a credit card,
Right.
you would give over that PIN, they would temporarily unfreeze it, and then you freeze it again. And it doesn't cost you anything. It would be the same in terms of the postal service. If I wanted to unfreeze it, I would have to call them, or walk into
Right.
my postal branch, give them my identification, and they would unfreeze it. So I'm going to have to refreeze it again because
Right.
those 6 months are going to be about up.
Yep. Um, One of the things you mentioned in terms of who to report scams like this to, you mentioned the Postal Inspection Service, and that is different from your post office. So
Mhm.
can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So you can report things to the postal service itself, but the Postal Inspection Service will take care of investigations and looking into mail
Mhm.
fraud and all the times that you've
Okay.
heard about those blue mailboxes that people somehow stole.
Right.
It's the inspection service that will do that kind of work. And honestly, if you call one or the other, they will help direct you to the right place. And if you look online, you can
Right.
report scams online as well as by calling.
Great. A lot of good information. Learned something new today, Karen. So thank you very much. Any additional closing thoughts before we wrap up today?
Sure. The one thing I wanted to mention was that Congressman Gottheimer actually, with a bipartisan group of representatives, sent a letter to the Postmaster General saying, and I'm severely paraphrasing here, we've got a problem. Change of
Right.
address fraud is on the rise. What can we do? Shouldn't we do something to better protect people who are receiving mail? Some of the ideas, yes, you're supposed to show ID. And yes, this
Mhm.
online verification with your credit card is supposed to work. It obviously didn't work in my case, right? Did they
Right.
already have my credit card? I mean, how did they do it? I don't know. Hopefully the Postal Inspection Service has figured it out.
Right.
But the
Right.
idea that the lawmakers, they were calling for people,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, for the Postmaster General to institute some sort of greater security so it's harder to change
Mhm.
your address. Now, nobody wants to make it difficult for the average
Right.
person who just wants to change it, but we do need
Right.
some kind of additional something because the fraud's on the rise. And if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody.
Exactly, yes. I remember when I was working in certain companies, financial companies, that if the client puts the address change, they would receive some type of acknowledgement letter or email shortly after that it's
And
been
and I
changed.
did actually receive a card from the Postal Service saying that my address had been changed,
Right,
but already my mail was going elsewhere, right?
right.
So
It was too late at that point.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay, good information. To wrap up our conversation today, after experiencing this scam yourself, I guess, okay, sorry, we've covered a lot of this stuff, but
Mhm.
I just wanted, sorry, guys. Okay, thank you, Karen. I thought I had more stuff to cover, but thank you for joining us today, Karen. For our viewers, if you're concerned you've been scammed, you can reach a trained volunteer at the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline at 877-908-3360. Again, that's 877-908-3360. And having been on a recent volunteer call with that Fraud Watch Network, scams are on the rise, identity theft, imposter scams. So if you are, if you've been infected by a potential scam or a victim, definitely, that's a resource for you. If you'd like more information and resources on frauds and scams from AARP New Jersey, please visit aarp.org/njfightsfraud. Again, that's aarp.org/njfightsfraud. If you're interested in learning more about free fun events, special offers, and the latest news from AARP, text the word yes, number 2, email to 50757 to receive a one-time text message from AARP with a link to sign up for emails and learn about what AARP has to offer. Message and data rates may apply. We hope you learned something new today about how you can stay safe from fraud and scams, and hope you can tune in to our next Facebook Live. Thank you and have a great weekend.